welcome to Queers and Quills, the official podcast. I'm audiobook narrator Kirt Graves. Every episode, I invite an attending author or narrator to join me for a one-on-one conversation about their lives and their art, so attendees and readers from across the world can get to know them not only as professionals, but as people. Joining me today is Mark Sanderlin. Mark Sanderlin is a voice actor, audiobook narrator, and musician based in New York City. He was born and raised in McMinnville, Oregon, where he first found a love of acting and music. Mark has recorded over 250 audiobooks, spanning genres from queer rom-coms to sci-fi to middle grade. When he's not in the booth, he can be found searching for the perfect cup of Earl Grey tea and giving belly scratches to his canine audio engineer, Roman. Welcome to the podcast, Mark.
Thank you so much, Kirt. I'm so happy to be here.
It's so great to see you again. So, let's start for our listeners who don't know you, who haven't had the pleasure of spending time with you as I have in the past. Tell them, where do you come from? What's your whole deal? Why are you here? How'd you get here?
You heard a little bit in that bio that I forgot I wrote, where I was like, oh, right, I did say those things, didn't I? So I am from Oregon originally, which is a great sort of synergy with Queers and Quills, where we will all be in May. I was a child actor back in Oregon in the 90s and early 2000s, so I come to this work with some background in voiceover from doing animation and commercials going way, 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 way back. And then, as you heard Kirt say, my focus kind of shifted to more music and songwriting, and I went to school for that. And that's where I picked up some skills in audio engineering and production, which, as we all know, comes into play later as an audiobook narrator.
Actually, I don't know that everybody does know that.
Really? Oh, that's actually a good point.
How much engineering we do on our own, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you don't get to see a lot of the production side of this sometimes as a listener. So I went to school for music, had an audio background, cut to a few years after I graduated college, and then I'm a working musician in New York City, and as that goes, always looking for a gig of any kind. And I happened to stumble upon ACX when I was buying a new audio interface, and needed to find a way for that to make it pay for itself. So it's like, how can I find a thing to do with this piece of tech? And ACX, for anybody who doesn't know, is the audiobook creation exchange, where indie authors can hire narrators to produce their audiobooks. So, of course, in my infinite wisdom, I said I already have a voice acting background and some audio skills, so I dove right in for
Isn't
better
that how we all
or
start?
worse.
I can do that.
Not knowing what I was doing. But from there, I kind of stumbled around in the dark until I found my way to APAC, which is the Audio Publishers Association conference that just happened in New York this last weekend, actually. And that was in 2018, and the rest is history. And as you heard Kirt say, I've done over 250 audiobooks for every major publisher and a ton of indie authors, and I'm doing it full time.
Yeah. So you and I have something in common. We've talked about this before, that we actually both got really lucky with our first gig on ACX. So what was that gig for you?
Oh boy, it is a Minecraft book series, and I have since done, I think, almost 80 or 90 books with this author.
Wow.
And looking at the list, that probably includes the omnibus editions of every 5 books. There's now the compiled version or whatever. But yeah, I'm literally this week doing another book for that first series that I did on ACX in 2015.
That's incredible.
It's book 17 of this, but then we've done all these little spin-off series that he's written and all kinds of fun things. Actually, I just the other day working on this book was going, I wonder where the character files are for this book I did 10 years ago. Couldn't find them. They're on a hard drive somewhere in a closet.
Yeah. We always say we save those things, and we do.
Now.
But do you know where they are? Well, that's true.
Now they're saved in 3 places because we've all had those things where an author will come back 5 years after the fact and go, hey, I wrote book 4 in this series. Do you want to do it? And you go, oh God, I don't know what any of the characters sound like now.
Right. Yeah. So how did you find your way then to the first thing you mentioned in your bio, which is queer rom-coms? How do we go from Minecraft to gay books?
Yeah. I was doing a lot of kid stuff, and we'll talk about this a little later, actually, in reference to like the stories that informed how I come to this. But it's a great question because I really saw myself initially as niching way down to like, I have kind of a youthful voice. Let me just pitch myself as I am the young adult middle grade guy, like give me all the kids stuff. And eventually, and I love that work, but eventually, you can't tell at home, listeners, but I am an adult man. But I found myself kind of yearning to tell stories that reflected my lived experience. And those are the books that I was reading. So, of course, as I'm going on in my audiobook journey, I'm going, hey, I love this book. Why am I not being considered to read the audiobook for this? And I did some indie books in the rom-com queer space, but it really didn't pick up until I was doing more publisher work, traditional publisher work. And I started telling people, hey, I would love to do this stuff. And they said, why, yes, here you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are the stories that influence you?
Okay, so I have an interesting way of approaching this. I had not listened to a ton of audiobooks before I started doing this work. But I can tell you exactly which ones I did listen to because they are still on my iPod video that I could boot up, you know, when you had to like download it from iTunes. I can tell you exactly which audiobooks are on there. And they left such a big impression on me that I actually, as I was thinking about this question today, it still informs the work that I do in many ways. So first of all was the Percy Jackson series, narrated by Jesse Bernstein. And it's interesting, I listened to a little clip of it earlier, and performance styles have changed so much in audiobooks.
So true, so true.
It's literally the first one came out 20 years ago. So it's a little more presentational, but he does incredible voice work, and it's like a cast of thousands in that series. And so for the middle grade work that I've done, that's like the goal, you know, is to be able to sustain that over a big series with a lot of characters.
Oh, I thought you meant to have a big hit like Percy Jackson.
That is also the goal.
That too.
I would love that. I would love that in a royalty share situation, in fact. So if there's any middle grade authors out there who want to do a royalty share on a hit series, yes, please. The other book that was on there was two more. The other book that was on there was Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli, narrated by our good friend Michael Crouch. Yeah. And I was thinking about the timing of this, and that may have been the book that got me thinking about narrating audiobooks because it came out the year I started in audiobooks. And I kind of think, looking back, I think I listened to that and thought, this is amazing. And this is telling a queer young adult romance. I want to do that. Like, how do I find my way into this work? And Michael is just amazing in it. And it got me thinking about telling stories in audio formats, but also telling our stories as queer people, rather than just, oh, someone needs an audiobook made and I'll do any genre for a paycheck. Yeah. You know, the light bulb
right at a
going
time
on.
When publishing started paying attention to our stories.
Exactly. Yeah. And then finally, I distinctly remember listening to Patti LuPone's autobiography.
Yes.
And thinking,
Patti LuPone, a memoir.
Good God, what was this like to produce? There's like specifically...
Have you since met these producers?
I have, and I've gotten some tea that we cannot share. That was fully under the cone of silence.
Of course.
But I remember thinking there was one spot where she does like an interjection of some kind, like a ha, you know, where it's in the text, and it's not super clear, but in my brain I remember thinking that definitely had to be recorded like 40 times until they got the one that they wanted. And that was the thing that got the gears turning in my mind about, oh, there's a whole production process behind not only producing the book, but then post-production. And, you know, when we're just doing it in our little makeshift closet booths, not now, obviously, but when you're just doing that, you don't quite think about, oh, there's a whole team behind all these things and the inner workings of how those things get fit together. So those are like the 3 audiobooks that really got me started.
I love that. And we share 2 of the 3 of those because Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda was also very formative for me, and it's one of my favorite Michael Crouch performances.
It's brilliant.
Poor guy really inspired a lot of us to get into this work, and then we were like, we'll do it too.
And he's like, damn
please. Yeah, he
Well,
really created a lot of his competition.
Truly. I mean, the beautiful
Not
thing...
that any of us are competition for Mike. Like, if he wants to do a book, he's getting the book. So.
No, not at all. But I will say, I just was hanging out with him at this year's Audio Awards, which is the Audiobook Awards, and he just won an Audie, which is really exciting. But we were talking with some other queer narrators and some producers about how positive this community is in terms of we're competing with each other for roles sometimes,
right.
But I never feel really that salty when you get a book that I was auditioning for, when Michael gets a book I was auditioning for, because I know on the next one we'll be playing boyfriends or like I'll get the next one. There's so much work for us in many ways. It doesn't feel analogous to other kind of acting gigs I've had where people are elbowing each other out of the way for the 3 roles a year that are available for your type, you know?
Right. Well, and I think, too, the bond that we get to form as queer performers also matters.
Totally.
I certainly... Listen, I'm kind of a bitch. So do I sometimes feel salty? Yeah. Did Andre just win an Audie for a book that I think should have been mine? Of course. But...
Our dear friend Andre, by the way.
Our dear friend, who I love dearly. Loved, and I'm so happy for him. But I will also never let him live this down. Even me, like, I have really no sense of schadenfreude or contempt for the people who I know and who I know, frankly, who are queer guys doing the same queer guy work.
Yeah.
You know, like, at least it was one of us. Because sometimes what we're competing against is not that at all.
No. Yeah.
So
it truly, and it makes it really hard to be angry at anybody, because when you meet them, they're all so nice because it's book people who I think are just some of the most genuinely kind, empathetic people that you can find.
Yeah. So if somebody were coming to your work for the very first time, and let's be specific to the Queers and Quills audience here. So the Queers and Quills folks want to listen to a Mark Sanderlin production that they've never heard you perform before. What's the one that you're like, go do this one?
I think right now the work that I'm proudest of in the last couple years is probably, and this is Oregon specific, so it's Anita Kelly's Something Wild and Wonderful. It is truly a magical book, and it's set partially, it's along the Pacific Crest Trail, and then partially in Portland, where we will all be in May.
Perfect.
And I think it's just it's an amazing book. And of course, if I can do 2.
Yeah.
Mistletoe and Mishigas by M.A. Wardell, narrated by you and me.
Yes.
Not
For
holiday
sure.
appropriate for the time, I guess, but, you know, Christmas any time of the year.
Right. Yeah.
Or in this case, Hanukkah. But.
Yeah. I would agree. Those are great books to feature you. So, all right. Next up, we have a game, my friend. Are you ready to play a game?
I'm so ready. Bring it on.
All right, so the rules of our game are simple. I have a deck of cards, and on each card is a question. These questions aim to learn more about you. Some are biographical, some are hypothetical, and some are just silly.
Okay.
But I will not be picking which cards you answer. Fate is. So I'm going to deal 3 cards every round, and you choose one. Whatever card you pick, you are agreeing to answer, with a couple of caveats. So if a question comes along that you don't want to answer, you have 2 opportunities to switch things up. Okay. You can turn the tables on me one time, forcing me to answer the question, or you can discard a personal question in favor of answering a bookish question from the white deck.
Excellent.
But you're only dealt 1 card, and you have to answer it. Are
Perfect.
you ready to play?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. Round 1. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
I'm going to go card 3, Bob.
Card 3. What is something you get wrong almost every time you do it?
The word glower.
I was like, audiobook narrator is going to say a word that we get wrong.
It's got to be glower. I have to think about it every time in the phonetics. Like if I type in Merriam-Webster, it doesn't come up as Merriam-Webster.com. It comes up as Merriam-Webster.com/glower because I constantly have to look it up.
Are you trying? Do you say glower?
In my head, yeah. That's
okay,
what I automatically go to.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That which actually makes perfect sense.
It makes more sense than how it is pronounced.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
It's more accurate. English is a crazy language.
English is nuts. We pull from so many other places. We're crazy.
3 languages in a trench coat.
All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 1.
What's something I would never guess about you?
Something you would never guess about me. I'm a decent bowler, and I'm on a gay bowling team right now.
Okay. I wouldn't guess the first thing, but once I learned the first thing, I would know it was the second thing.
Really? What gave that away?
You give off gay bowling team energy.
Listen, I was nominated in the superlatives last season as the social butterfly, so I will take it as a compliment that I give off big gay bowling team energy.
I love that. How many people are on a team?
I think this season we have 8 people. And it's a good mix of gay men, queer women, trans, non-binary. It's great, and it's very friendly, and it's hard to make friends in a big city. I'm in New York City, so it's hard to make friends sometimes, and it's a great excuse to get together and drink beer on a Monday night, which makes recording on Tuesday mornings more challenging.
How did you find that?
It's actually a big it's called Big Apple Rec League, and they do a ton of sports in the city, and they're always advertising on social media.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's great. I did one season of every week, yeah. And cool. I did one season of kickball and decided that was too athletic for me.
That wasn't for you.
So I went over to the drinking sport instead.
Hey, there is so much downtime. It really is good. Yeah. Are you good at bowling now?
I generally get above 100. So in the social world of gay bowling, pretty good. Yeah. It doesn't go in the gutter most of the time.
Yay!
Which was a pleasant surprise for me when I started.
Amazing. Okay, I love that. All right. Next round, card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Let's go card 2.
Card 2. What is something that people are obsessed with, but you just don't get the point of?
Oh, I'm absolutely turning this one back on you, Kirt, because I know you're going to have a great answer.
Will I? Well, the problem is I probably think too many things.
That's what I was thinking.
Something that people are obsessed with, but I just don't get the point of. Cats?
Fair.
The musical and the animal, I guess. But I was talking about the musical.
Fair. I did see the Jellicle Ball production that happened recently downtown. Phenomenal. Big improvement on the original. It's great.
Well, it would have to be.
It's a low bar to clear.
It would have to be. Yeah. All right. 1, 2, or 3?
Let's go 1.
What do you think is the most unpleasant sounding word?
Pleasant sounding word. Can't say glower again, can I?
No.
I've been having a real problem with sneer lately in books. Everybody's always sneering at someone, and I'm getting real tired of sneer. It sounds like the look, you know what I mean? But it does kind of feels gross in the mouth, which I guess is, again, the point of the word. Just it's sort of descriptive of the thing that it's describing, but sneer.
I like that. Good answer. All right, card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Ooh, let's go card 3.
Okay. What's the most awkward thing that happens to you on a regular basis?
Yeah, no, we're going to go with a bookish question instead on this one.
All right. Here we go. From the top of the white deck.
And this is a must-answer bookish question,
It's a must-answer,
right?
But you got an easy one. Some of these could be controversial, because people have opinions.
I've never been accused of such a thing.
But
I've never had an opinion.
What's your least favorite book genre?
Least favorite book genre. I almost don't want to knock myself out of the running for a job in the future. I don't tend to love really navel-gazy literary fiction. Something that takes itself really seriously, where it's a brilliant. I'm like imagining the log line here, but it's like brilliant combination of melange of genres. It doesn't quite know what it is. It's so dense it could be poetry, but for 700 pages, I'm like, give me a story somewhere, please. Give me plot, please. I like it in this much itty bitty bitty doses, experimental stuff, but yeah, not that.
Well, I think you can rest easy that not a ton of casting agents are going to be listening to this podcast. So,
I did recently narrate one like that, though, as part of a multicast, and it is, let me tell you, wild. I do not understand what happened in that book.
Oh, really?
Even after narrating it, and I had a conversation with the producer the other day, and she was like, I don't know what that was either.
Wow.
It was really interesting.
And yet, it has the power of a publisher behind it, and it's going out into the world.
It's
wild.
It's something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll promote it for the listeners and for Kirt. I will promote it when it comes out because I play a serial killer in it, which is a lovely departure for me.
I did that in a book once.
Mm-hmm.
But only the parts where we knew he was serial killing. So it was like 10 minutes of the total book.
Yeah, but you got paid for the full finished hour, right?
I did. But like there was, and the thing like, sorry if this spoils it for anybody else. There were only 2 male narrators on the whole book.
So it was pretty obvious.
And it was the other guy who ended up being the serial killer. And it was like, I was like, they should have cast a girl. They should have just had one of the other female narrators voice this part to make it so obvious that like the only other character being voiced by a man in this multicast ends up being the killer. And it's like, we didn't think that through.
We kind of spoiled this in the audio format a little bit.
We didn't think it through, guys. So, all right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Let's go card 2.
Okay. You're out of options now. So now you have to
I've used up both of my lifelines?
You've used up your lifelines.
Oh, no.
What's the worst pickup line you've ever heard or dished out?
Worst pickup line? Oh, golly. We work in queer romance, so I've had to say so many.
Mm-hmm.
So for the audio only people, I am not. I'm quite bald, and I have I have been approached by gentlemen callers before, complimenting or touching without asking.
God, no.
And that always, and I think in their minds it's sort of a sensual way to go in, and I'm like, do not do that. Please don't touch my head without asking. In fact, even if you ask, I'm going to say no.
Right.
No.
Okay.
That's not for me.
Good advice in general. Just don't start a conversation by touching someone.
No. Consent is key, people.
Consent
Please,
is key.
for the love of God.
Yes. All right. Card 1, 2, or 3?
3, please.
Okay. Would you rather go 30 days without your phone or your entire life without dessert?
Oh, 30 days without my phone. I'm begging somebody to take my phone away from me. Right. There was that glorious 48 hours where TikTok was gone and I felt like free.
That's true.
I was like, oh, I'm so addicted to this thing and somebody is forcing me to stop. Marvelous. Instead,
what are those animals flying through the air?
Instead, it came back and I went, well, now I'm just going to mainline it all day long every day in case it goes away again. No, absolutely. Somebody take my phone away. I'm not giving up chocolate.
There you go. I love you even more now that I know that is a part of who you are.
The TikTok nonsense?
No, the chocolate part.
Oh, yes.
The TikTok nonsense is pervasive. It's all of us.
That's table stakes for everybody right now.
Right. But the chocolate thing that's important.
It really is. What's life if not for chocolate?
I wouldn't want to find out. All right. Card 1, 2, or 3?
Let's go card 1.
What would be the worst movie sequel ever made?
Oh, boy. Worst movie sequel ever made. Well, I can give you a salty opinion tucked into this one. It would be a sequel to The Brutalist. And I can tell you because the first one was so long that if anybody was to make another one, it would be torturous.
Now, I haven't seen it, but I've heard, isn't it basically 2 movies already?
Oh, yeah. There's an intermission. There's an intermission. What is this? What is this? The Sound of Music VHS where you'll have to pop in tape number 2 and listen to the entr'acte? What is this? My grandma's basement in 1995?
I don't know. What was the architecture of your grandma's basement in 1995?
I can tell you it was not Brutalist. A little more cottagecore than Brutalist.
All right. I think we have time for 2 more.
Excellent.
Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Let's go card 3.
Okay. If you could jump into a pool full of something, what would it be?
Money. Well, am I allowed to take it? Am I allowed to take the substance with me, or is this just the physical sensation of jumping into something?
Well, okay.
Because those are different answers.
If your answer is money, if you can take it with you, what's your answer? If you can't take it with you, it's just about the experience.
It's just about the experience. Ooh. I think sensation-wise, jumping into a giant pool of Dippin' Dots would be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like
tiny
fluffy,
little cold, like ball pit.
Yeah, like a cold plunge, but like little soft ball bearings everywhere. I think that would be a really interesting sensation.
You heard it here first. Mark wants to jump into a pool of balls.
Oh, God.
All right.
Someone's going to write me a book like that now. I've got the perfect role for you.
Final round. Card 1, 2, or 3?
Let's go. Got to be card 1.
Card 1. All right. What happened on your worst date?
Oh no. I can, if you
have to talk around it, that's okay.
There are so many.
Or do you just have trouble picking?
There are so many. It's an encyclopedic list of horrible dates. I think I had one recently that I was baffled by. Not baffled, but I had a reaction to it afterwards. He was perfectly lovely. We had a great time. Dinner was great. Afterwards, he texted me right after we left and said, "I'm so sorry if I was a little stiff and a little reserved. I was nauseous the entire time we were there." We were there for like 2 hours. And he was like, "When I got up to go to the bathroom, I actually thought I was going to vomit." So in the back of my head, I'm thinking, another successful interaction with a man. Just what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I had a great time and had no idea any of that was happening.
Oh, poor guy and poor you.
Yeah.
That's an inauspicious start. But, I mean...
Oh, well. It wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you do in that situation?
I'd be
if you
like...
sat down and immediately felt unwell on a first date.
Oh, I have no qualms. I'd be like, "I'm so sorry, I have to leave. We can do this another time." But...
I agree.
I do understand the impulse to, if you're really excited to be there and you really want it to go well, to tamp down your what's actually happening with you physically. But I think in my advanced age, I don't have time to sit around if I'm not feeling well. I'm piecing out.
Well, it also gives you the opportunity to immediately say up front, this isn't you.
Oh, yeah. It's not you. It's truly me.
This is not a reaction to you, but I feel like I'm going to throw up. So I think we need to reschedule.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you were a trooper on some of those. So thank you for your forthrightness.
I'm so glad I could share with the class.
And I'm so glad you could come on and talk about your work, and so that people who aren't already fans can become fans before they meet you in Oregon.
Please come up and say hi if you're there. Please come say hi. We'd love to meet people.
Awesome. So, thank you to everybody for listening to Queers and Quills, the official podcast. If you're already signed up to attend Queers and Quills, make sure to say hello to me and Mark at the Oregon Convention Center in May. And if you're not, follow Queers and Quills on Instagram to follow along with all the fun this year, feel the FOMO, and then get updates about ticket availability in the future. Until next time, I'm Kirt Graves, and I hope you're having a very gay day. Queers and Quills, the official podcast, is produced and hosted by Kirt Graves, in coordination with Mahogany Mail and Marley Valentine. All copyrighted material is shared with permission. Music and sound effects are licensed through Storyblocks Audio. All opinions shared are those of the individuals and do not reflect the positions or policies of any company or organization with which they happen to be associated.